Chapter 406, Fatty G who was clueless about the good stuff. The smile on Gu Yan's face stilled and was replaced by a dignified expression as she said, Master, I was once a disciple of the heavenly Emperor Tianji, you know about this matter as well. But, back then, I managed to conceal my identity thanks to the concealer divine pearl you gave me. Therefore, even heavenly Emperor Tianji was unable to peep on my real identity from the heaven. Similarly, I also used a method to peep on the heavenly secrets and observe those too. At the end of the day, I actually discovered that I couldn't completely figure out the past of those two, neither was I able to divine their future path. Their heavenly secrets were obscured in darkness. There are only two empty shades, like it's being shrouded by a faint black mist. Tang Shou slightly knitted his brows. Peeping on the heavenly secrets was not his forte. Although he could occasionally sense and realize something from the heavenly secrets, it was only illusionary fragments. What does that mean, Yen? Based on what I learned from Heavenly Emperor Tianji, there's two possibilities. Gu Yan said with all seriousness, the first one is, someone shielded their identities using some special means, like what I did when I entered Heavenly Emperor Tianji's gate. The second one is, those two lack an immortal soul or immortal soul. Each person has 3 immortal souls and 7 mortal forms, so even if one lacks one immortal soul or a one mortal soul, the divination for this type of person will dissipate in the heavenly secrets itself. They are missing a type of soul, yet they can still live well, and are even able to cultivate an immortal technique? Tang Shou was surprised. That's right. Gu Yan said dignifiedly, each of 3 immortal souls and 7 mortal souls forms have different effects. However, I don't know which type is missing from them, though. I quietly observed them for a long time before I finally discovered that it was not due to missing a type of soul. That's right, they only have one abnormity. What kind of abnormity? Tang Shou asked. It's their blood. Gu Yan said, their desire for blood is very strong. It seems they are from a clan who has an innate seed for massacre, possessing an extreme inborn talent for combat senses, and extraordinary savagery in the means of killing. In this regard, they resemble a bit the Azura clan. How about their present cultivation level? Tang Shou asked. They are indeed stronger than Xiaoxue, and will soon enter the immortal nascent stage. Gu Yan said. Tang Shou was taciturn for a long while. Then, he slowly said, they seem to have duties outside, no? Yes, Xiaoxue told me about that. Gu Yan said, they both have been learning through experience abroad. Light has status and is treated as a state guest by more than 10 countries. The Queen of England herself has also conferred him with a title of nobility, and he has a very illustrious identity overseas. Apart from us, no one knows that he hails from our everlasting feast hall. As for Dark, she is always hiding in the darkness and is the best assassin in the world's biggest assassin organization. Xiaoxue summoned them back due to my awakening. Once these two have broken through the immortal nascent stage, their strength will be very terrifying. Apart from Ji Qimei, perhaps no one would be able to contend with them. So, this is the reason why you let them take the time to deal with things abroad, rather than having them stay to cultivate in the exquisite pagoda. Anyways, give me a few more years. I have the confidence to surpass them and make them work for me when the time comes. No problem. Gu Yan nodded and said with a smile, I'll take care of it. How did you find them? Tang Shou asked. I found them in empty Everest. Gu Yan said, some people were climbing the steepest snow wall of Everest with 2 children back then. Those 6 people were martial artists with notable strength. Every one of them had surpassed the level of martial arts grandmaster and were able to sense the Tao of boundary. These 2 children are exactly the offspring from the 2 of them. And then? Tang Shou asked. I displayed some strength to deter them. Gu Yan said with a smile, following which, I imparted them a very low-level cultivation technique and told the couple that I wanted to take the 2 children as my disciples. I also promised them that after they had fully grown to adulthood, they would then be allowed to return home and meet their relatives. Did they agree? Tang Xiu asked with astonishment. Yes, they agreed. Gu Yan nodded and said, moreover, I also told them some major principle and high-sounding talk that their children have a predestined karma to come across an immortal, since their childhood, a great fortune. They said a ton of grateful words, but I can tell that what they most cared about was that set of cultivation technique. A cultivation technique to tread on the path to immortality is probably the dream of countless people, to begin with. Tang Xiu nodded. Forcing a smile, he said, I dare say that the vast majority of people will abandon their businesses, sacrifice their families, and leave their wives and children should they face such a choice. Hence, they are not to be overly blamed. Then, have you told the two about their parents after they grew up? I told them. Gu Yan nodded and said, but they said they had no feelings or attachments at all toward their parents, thus, they didn't want to go back. Tang Xiu secretly sighed, wait. Wait for my strength to rise in the future, then I'll persuade them. When all is said and done, the will of people is subject to constant changes. Granted, although those two are thirsty for blood and killing, they might still have a bit of an illusion toward their parents. Let's wait. Later on, I'll help them resolve their mental demon. Master, you really value talent more now than in the past. Gu Yan said with a smile. It's good to cherish talents, Tang Xiu replied with a smile. The number of experts and subordinates I will have in the future will be like the clouds in the sky. Even if I return to the immortal world, I will once again be able to fight a bloody road, embarking on the path to the throne of the Supremes. Not only must I slay my mortal enemies with my own hands, I must also break the shackles of the immortal world to tread on the path to the God realm. Master, you're saying I can receive them as my disciples? Gu Yan said, originally, I myself didn't believe that those one-year-old children back then were the enemy's chess piece set up in secret. I'm also trying to tell you that. Take them. Tang Xiu said, since they already have such a cultivation level and possess a very high aptitude, take them as your disciples. That will make them closer to you. Let's go, then. Gu Yan said with a smile. I'm going to accept them as disciples now. Tang Xiu grabbed her hand and shook his head, no hurry. I must go outside later since that fatty Ji will send several precious ores. If they are of any use to me, I'll buy them. After I leave the exquisite pagoda, you can receive them as your disciples. All right. Gu Yan said with a smile. About an hour later, Gu Xiaoxue came to the exquisite pagoda to inform Tang Xiu that the ores had arrived. Before leaving, Tang Xiu told Gu Xiaoxue to bring light and dark to the exquisite pagoda. Inside one of the restaurant's boxes. While rubbing the suitcase in his hands, Fatty Ji had a smile on his face. Never did he imagine that he would finally chance upon an opportunity to meet Tang Xiu due to helping Gao Yanfeng to pit Tang Dong, thus making his relationship with the Everlasting Feast Hall go a step further. It was simply something he could never think of in the past. Others would never know how terrifying the Everlasting Feast Hall was, but he was perfectly clear. He once saw from very far away place that woman from the Everlasting Feast Hall, Gu Yan, in her white dress, treading on the void as though lightly dancing on the surface of the sea. At that time, he almost thought that he met a fairy. Unfortunately, he hadn't had time to find a boat to rush there, as the fairy-looking Gu Yan disappeared before him. Afterward, he then paid close attention to the movements of many members of the Everlasting Feast Hall, and finally found some things that secretly frightened him. Thus, he dared not send anyone to investigate them again. Those seemingly ordinary security guards of the Everlasting Feast Hall actually often visited foreign countries overseas. They could be said as being simply terrifying. They had many identities and had carried out many battles and massacres. 7 or 8 years ago, 2 members of the Everlasting Feast Hall, who usually acted as security guards, actually knocked on his door and had a sharp dagger on his neck, warning him not to conduct any investigations whatsoever on the Everlasting Feast Hall again. From that time onwards, he no longer dared to investigate anything about the Everlasting Feast Hall. He even repeatedly invited his colleagues and friends to dine at the Everlasting Feast when he had the chance, showing his goodwill. Sitting in the private room and stroking the leather suitcase, Fatty G's eyes flashed with astuteness as they shined brightly. He thought inwardly, to be in the king's company is tantamount to living with a tiger. Not only is Tang Xiu a member of the Tangs, he's also the master of the Everlasting Feast Hall, as well as a ruthless and merciless character. Hence, I mustn't ask for an outrageous price. I'm contented with earning a small amount of money as long as it can satisfy him, so that he will take care of me in the future. Fatty G, have the ores been sent? Tang Xiu's figure appeared at the box's door. They are here, Mr. Tang. Fatty G said with a smile, have a look. If you are satisfied with them, I'll sell to you with a 50% discount. After all, it's our first cooperation. I'll not give you any discounts later on, though. Thank you. Tang Xiu replied with a smile. As the black suitcase was opened, there were 6 pieces of ores of different colors and sizes inside. There was even a faint fluctuation of spiritual qi coming out of one of the ores. Spirit crystal? Tang Xiu's expression turned a bit strange. Holding the ore, he observed it a few times and confirmed. A spirit crystal was useful for Dao and Immortal cultivators, but it was of a little value for him. Furthermore, despite this spirit crystal not being small in size, and even being 10 times bigger than the spirit crystals in the Immortal world, but the quality was of the lowest grade. Mr. Tang, do you like this piece of ore? Fatty G asked with a strange expression. This ore was found by his workers when they opened up the mine. There were still many of them and he had instructed some people to collect them. However, because he only obtained it recently, he had yet to find an expert to assess the classification of the ore. This ore is indeed good, and feels very comfortable. Tang Xiu nodded and said, and the weight is several times lighter than the other types. Say your price. This, Fatty G looked somewhat awkward. He didn't know what kind of ore it was. How could he quote a price? You can quote your initial price freely. I said I won't let you suffer any losses, didn't I? Tang Xiu said with a smile. Fatty G steeled his heart, gritted his teeth and said, Mr. Tang, since you like it, I'll give this ore to you for free. As for the later transactions, I'll receive 100,000 from you for ores as big as this one. What do you think? 100,000? Fatty G would actually sell this piece of spirit crystal for only 100,000? He really doesn't know the good stuff. Chapter 407, sank into slumber, yet again. Tang Xiu shook his head and was at a loss whether to be amused or cry, when he suddenly saw Fatty G's expression change. He realized that Fatty G had misunderstood his meaning. He then chuckled and said, Don't misunderstand me. I just thought that you're a good a person as you quoted a fair price. From here onwards, regardless of how many you have, I'm willing to buy them all. The price for each piece will be as you say, 100,000 per piece. Really? Fatty G looked happy upon hearing it and quickly said. Really? Tang Xiu said, though I don't know what this ore is, I'm actually very interested in collecting all kinds of strange ores. Besides, I'm not short on money. Let alone 100,000 or a billion, this amount is nothing more than pocket money. Hence, I'll take however many you have in the future. Fatty G was shocked by Tang Xiu's statement. A billion yuan was just pocket money? It was a statement only few people in the world dared to say. Yet, he also saw a golden road underneath. One must know that he just discovered this ore in a mining area he had recently mined, and hundreds of pieces of this ore had been found quickly as well. If all were sold to Tang Xiu. _rich. I'm rich, _. Fatty G excitedly said, Mr. Tang, take a look at the other 5 ores. Do you like them too? Tang Xiu swept over them and found that the 4 could be used to craft tools and could substitute medicinal herbs, and the fierce beast's bones in the refinement of medicines. Therefore, he picked up the 4 minerals and said, I'll take these 4, too. You can directly quote the total price for them. Overjoyed, Fatty G quickly calculated in his mind and then said, I bought these 4 ores through a special channel for a total price of 1.35 million yuan. If Boss Tang wants them, I'll sell them to you for 1.5 million. Only taking 150,000 in profit? It's not much, . Deal. Tang Xiu nodded and said, give me your bank account number, I'll transfer the money to you now. Fatty G became more delighted. He never thought that Tang Xiu would be so forthright. After giving his account number to Tang Xiu, he then quickly received 1.6 million. Mr. Tang, why did you give me 100,000 more? I told you that I won't take advantage of you, didn't I? Tang Xiu chuckled and said, the extra 100,000 is for this ore. Fatty G felt impressed and subdued by Tang Xiu's actions. He gritted his teeth and quickly said, Mr. Tang, I still have several hundred of such ores over there. When would you want them? You still have that many? Tang Xiu was surprised. Yes. They were just recently mined. I believe it will be able to produce more a few more days later. After calculating the pros and cons, Fatty G finally decided to tell him. He wanted to see whether Tang Xiu really wanted it, and if what he said was true, if he was really sincere in cooperating with him. I'll take them. Tang Xiu said with a smile, after you bring them all over, you can directly hand them over to Gu Xiaoxue. She will check it personally and pay you for them. However, before buying ores from you again, we need to sign a contract. Else, I'll no longer buy ores from you. What contract? Fatty G hastily asked. This or you just sold me, you can only sell it to me from now on. Tang Xiu said with a smile, I don't want to have this strange or ion spread out all over the world. You also understand that the rarer the goods, the more precious and valuable they are, right? I see. Tang Xiu's condition for Fatty G was simply what he sincerely wished for. After Fatty G had left, Gu Xiaoxue, who was standing by and keeping watch, spoke. Tang Xiu casually handed it over to her, as he smiled and said, you have good fortune. This is called Spirit Crystal, and it contains spiritual power inside. After cultivators have absorbed the spiritual power inside it, their cultivation speed will increase. Send someone to Fatty G's mining area to closely watch the activity there. If he sells the harvested crystals to us, let him continue working for us and pay him. But if he dares to use his crooked mind to sell even a spirit crystal, kill him directly and take over his mining area. Affirmative. Gu Xiaoxue looked pleasantly surprised. She naturally knew what a spirit crystal was. She had heard about it from her master, Gu Yan. And from elderly Ji Qimei. In the immortal world, rumor had it that there were spirit crystals and immortal crystals, each of which was divided into many grades. While fiddling and assessing the spirit crystal in her hand, she curiously asked, what grade is this spirit crystal, Grand Master? Its quality is of the worst grade. Tang Xiu answered with a smile. Upon hearing it, Gu Xiaoxue looked a bit disappointed. Don't look so disappointed. Tang Xiu chuckled and said, even the worst quality spirit crystal is already good enough for those who have yet to reach the nascent soul stage. Besides, having these spirit crystals is better than nothing, isn't it? Besides, I estimate that you only need to absorb 100 spirit crystals, at the most before you can reach the tipping point of the golden core stage. You even have a chance of stepping into the nascent soul stage. Really? Gu Xiaoxue was pleasantly surprised and immediately asked. Do I look like I'm teasing you? Tang Xiu chuckled and said, all right, go busy yourself. Do remember to send someone to monitor Fatty G and his mining area. No problem. Gu Xiaoxue quickly gave the spirit crystal back to Tang Xiu and then left, looking joyful. A few minutes afterward, Tang Xiu had returned to the exquisite pagoda. Just as he entered the first floor, he saw Light and Dark standing there. They couldn't conceal their happiness as they knelt down in front of Tang Xiu and called out, paying respects to Grand Master. Get up. Tang Xiu smiled lightly and said, since Yen has decided to take you as her disciples, you must prove yourselves and make her satisfied with you. However, don't be too proud and arrogant, you must cultivate well in the future so as not to let us down. Yes. Light and Dark replied in unison. Tang Xiu waved his hand, motioning the two of them to leave. His eyes then landed on Ji Qimei as he said, I have checked all the core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall. They are all good. You can teach them cultivation techniques. Impart them a cultivation technique that only reaches the Golden Core stage. As for the following method after the Golden Core stage, consider to impart it to them after they have completely reached that stage. Lord, Master has also considered this issue before, yet she eventually gave up. Ji Qimei hesitantly replied, as a matter of fact, imparting a cultivation technique is not a difficult issue, it's mainly due to the lack of cultivation resources. It's fine if the number is small, since I can get them through various channels, even providing some precious medicinal herbs and concocting some pills. But if there's too many, even I will become overwhelmingly busy. I can teach you a method, actually. Tang Xiu said with a smile. What is this method, Lord? Ji Qimei asked. Use the incentive system. Tang Xiu said, you can devise a detailed reward form, such as whoever obtains precious medicinal herbs from the outside. Depending on the quantity, you can then reward them some pills based on the standard. You can make this standard to be higher, however. I believe that not only will they have motivation and goals, but they will also acquire the cultivation resources as well. As for concocting pills, I'll take some time off later to refine a batch of pills, but you have to give me the needed raw medicinal herbs. Ji Qimei looked excited, this one will respectfully obey the Lord. This one will do according to your instructions. I'll tell you another good news. I just learned that there exist spirit crystals on Earth. I've handed the matter over to Xiaoxue, she'll tell you about the specific details. Spirit crystal? Ji Qimei then said, Boss, if there are spirit crystals, not only will my injury recover quickly, but you will also be able to arrange the 9 heavens frost array. Thus, once you have laid this array, we'll be able to suppress the twilight nightmare effect on Master's body so that it can support her and give her more time. Tang Xiu's eyes lit up as he nodded and said, You're right. Wait until a batch of spirit crystals is sent. You are to collect them and save them until you can lay the 9 heavens frost array. After that, you can give them as resources to cultivate talents. Affirmative. Ji Qimei cupped her fists and said. As Tang Xiu arrived at the 7th floor, he saw Gu Yan. Smiling at him. Shaking his head, Tang Xiu then smiled and said, What are you thinking of? To think you unexpectedly have such a happy smile? Master, you're really good to me, the best. Gu Yan. Said, I just heard your chat with old Ji. I never thought that Earth would have spirit crystals. Tang Xiu walked over and held her shoulders. He let her lean on his chest and whispered, There are many things on Earth that shocked me many times already up until now. Inside my interspatial ring there is also a holy dragon fruit. You should know the value of this fruit. Apart from it, I have just found a good clue about the demonic revival grass, so I plan to rush to Shanghai to track its whereabouts. However, I heard news about you awakening from slumber, so I immediately changed direction. Holy dragon fruit? And the demonic revival grass? A shocked expression appeared on Gu Yan's breathtakingly beautiful face. One must note that these items, even in the immortal world, were topmost treasures that countless immortals always dreamed of. Yet, little did one expect that these items would appear on Earth. For the following 2 days, Tang Xiu stayed in the exquisite pagoda. He chatted with Gu Yan, telling her various stories. Shortly put, in these 2 days, his ears were always full of Gu Yan's happy laughter. Master, Yan, can't bear it any longer. On the 7th floor of the exquisite pagoda, Gu Yan's lower lip trembled, her face ghastly pale. Her voice turned fainter and fainter. Gently hugging her, Tang Xiu was full of concern, saying, Yan, will be fine. Don't firmly hold it back despite the pain. Master will come here to accompany you often, and I'll immediately rush here when you wake up. Furthermore, I'll do everything I can to cure your injury. Have faith in Master. What your master has said will surely be done. Okay. Gu Yan's blurred eyes suddenly turned bright. Her spirit was as if it had suddenly turned better. Her soft body suddenly pressed in Tang Xiu's arms, as her pale lips directly sealed on Tang Xiu's lips. 1 second. 2 seconds. As the 3rd second passed, Tang Xiu finally sobered from his panic-stricken state. As he was about to push Gu Yan, he noticed that her eyes were already closed, as 2 crystal tears slipped from the corner of her eyes, softly falling on Tang Xiu's arms. Chapter 408, Everyone Acts and Pretends. After returning to Earth, Tang Xiu's personally had undergone subtle changes. He was no longer a pure ascetic who had few desires. Instead, he was much closer to a human who was true to life, with 7 emotions and 6 sensory pleasures constantly affecting his every action. At this moment, Tang Xiu gently looked at his cherished disciple who fell into slumber. Despite having been prepared for it, sorrow and grief emerged inside his heart, the hatred toward Shade Demon Zhu Wushou turning more intense. While gently holding Gu Yan, Tang Xiu placed her on the bed, watching her slumbering form, seemingly suffering a painful torment. Tang Xiu couldn't help but softly whisper, Yan, Master will definitely cure you. And I will certainly make Shade Demon Zhu Wushou live a miserable life for thousands of years, for 10,000s of years, even millions of years. Amid the cold, sitting cross-legged beside Gu Yan on the 7th floor of the exquisite pagoda, Tang Xiu quietly watched her beautiful face for a very long time. Finally, the dusk came and the dawn arrived. As the new day approached, he floated and decided to leave the 7th floor. When he came to the 1st floor of the exquisite pagoda, he saw Ji Chime sitting cross-legged on the rush cushion in the middle of the room, cultivating silently. There was a very powerful fluctuation of immortal origin qi coming out of her. Lord. Noticing Tang Xiu, a sorrowful look flashed in Ji Chime's eyes, as she said respectfully. Tang Xiu's expression was icy. He lightly nodded and said, Chime, take care of Yan. Protecting her safety is of the utmost importance. The next time she wakes up, I'll teach you a top-notch cultivation technique from the immortal world, as well as a type of divine combat art. Understood. Ji Chime reverentially said. Tang Xiu left the exquisite pagoda. He didn't have the intention to stay in the everlasting feast hall. Asking someone to drive him to the airport, he then took a flight to Shanghai. It was already noon when he arrived at Shanghai. Because he kept thinking about the buried diamond, Tang Xiu got a cab and directly went to Glory Auction House. The auction house was in a magnificent building with about 40 floors. On the way back to Shanghai, Tang Xiu had browsed information about Glory Auction House through his mobile phone. He found that, apart from someone named Ho Qingmin who was the Glory Auction House's general manager, he couldn't find who the secret big boss was. Hello, sir. You need to show your staff tag and swipe your work card to enter. If you're not an auction house's staff, please enter from the adjoining line. There's a registration desk over there. It was like the Metro card machine in subway stations, with 6 entrances sealed. On the other side, the one who spoke was a woman wearing a blue suit and wearing a staff tag. Tang Xiu looked at her and then entered the next doorway according to her instructions. Hello, sir. May I ask for your intention in coming to our Glory auction house? One of the two female staffs sitting inside the registration desk asked with a professional smile. I want to see Ho Ching-min. Tang Shou said. What? The two female staffs were stunned, strange expressions emerging on their faces. I want to see Ho Ching-min. I'd have to trouble to you to help me inform him about my request. Tang Shou repeated. One of the staffs forced a smile and said, Sir, you need to make an appointment in advance if you want to see our general manager. Additionally, you also need to register here and find the lobby manager for that. As to whether she can help you, we don't know. All right. I'll register then. Tang Shou took the registration book and wrote his name and contact information on it. He then strode into the first-floor lobby. There was a row of tables and chairs inside the lobby, whereby two middle-aged man and a woman were sitting. Excuse me, who among you is the lobby manager? Tang Shou looked at one of them and asked. The middle-aged woman stood and nodded with a smile. I am. May I ask who am I speaking with? I'm surnamed Tang, Tang Shou. Tang Shou said, my purpose in coming to Glory Auction House is to see your general manager, Ho Ching-min. If it's convenient, I'd like you to inform him about my request. The lobby manager forced a smile and said, Mr. Tang, our general manager is unable to see guests for the time being. Can you leave your contact information and your ID, please? I'll submit your information after our general manager has finished with his job. So much trouble. Tang Shou knitted his brows. It's the rule of our Glory auction house, Mr. Tang. The lobby manager said. Rule? Tang Shou was silent for a while. He then dialed Chi Nan's cell number and said, help me find Glory auction house's general manager, Ho Ching-min's contact. The sooner the better. I have it, boss. Chi Nan's voice came out of the phone. You are acquaintance with Ho Ching-min? Tang Shou asked, a bit surprised. We have a bit of a friendship. Chi Nan said with a smile, he once tried to break through our 1000 Revolution array in Jingmen Island's Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ. Pity that he failed, though. Later on, he came to dine at Everlasting Feast Hall's Shanghai branch many times. Hence we knew each other and exchanged contact information. That's just right. Tang Shou said, come to Glory Auction House, I'll be waiting for you here. Affirmative. Chi Nan responded and hurriedly hung up the call. In the long table, the lobby manager observed Tang Shou with an odd expression. She didn't know the person Tang Shou had called. But listening to the conversation's content, it should be related to the general manager, Ho Ching-min. Mr. Tang, might I ask what is your job? The lobby manager thought for a moment before she inquired in a soft tone. I'm a student. Tang Shou said. A student? The lobby manager forced a wry smile inwardly. Pointing to the chair nearby, Tang Shou asked lightly, can I sit here while waiting for my friend? Please, have a seat. The lobby manager nodded and said with a smile. After taking a seat, Tang Shou then calmly waited. He then pulled out an economics book from his travel bag to kill the time, and then read it in silence. More than 20 minutes later. The Principles of Economics? What a good young man. So young, yet you actually read this kind of book. To think that you're also reading the English version. Can you understand it? A voice sounded near Tang Shou, awakening him from his immersion of the book. Tang Shou looked up and saw a tall, middle-aged man with a cool appearance. He immediately lowered his head to continue reading and lightly replied, it's just fine. Looking at Tang Shou's actions, the middle-aged man immediately grinned. The Principles of Economics. Published by Mechanical Industry Press in 2003, N. Gregory Mankiw. The book should be a relatively basic economic textbook for teaching materials. At the present stage, the more commonly used are written by Mankiw, Soros, Van Ryan, And they also have corresponding English and Mandarin versions. As a matter of fact, many businessmen in China also seem to have seen the Western economics, which are suitable for our country's national conditions. Thus, the contents are roughly similar as well. Tang Xiu once again put down his book. He looked up at the middle-aged man and said, "Are you showing off your education level or something? If so, I would like to ask you a question." The middle-aged man couldn't help laughing. A young man shouldn't be so easy to offend. "Anyhow, what do you want to ask?" "I should be able to answer one or two things in regards to the economic field, though I know more about things in regards to the business aspect." "Then, please answer my question." Tang Xiu said lightly. "Which dark horse domestic company group you think will come to prominence in the business world in the next few years?" The middle-aged man was speechless. Despite having been in the business world for several decades and having huge assets and owning many types of enterprises, he really couldn't tell which group company would come to prominence in the business world within the next few years. After waiting for more than 10 seconds, and seeing that the man couldn't answer it, Tang Xiu then said lightly, "Since you're unable to answer my question, then don't disturb my reading time, would you? Judging from your neat and well-dressed suit, you seem unlikely to be an ordinary person. Don't you know that it's very impolite for you to disturb others but not introduce yourself?" The middle-aged man couldn't help laughing. "I'm sorry for my rudeness. Anyways, I'm Yang Jinpan, a businessman. I'm one of the stakeholders of this glory auction house. May I ask how I should call this little brother?" Tang Xiu. With a change in expression, Tang Xiu then stood up and asked, "You have shares in this glory auction house? May I ask a favor from you?" Yang Jinpan's brows slightly furrowed, though it quickly went back to normal. He carefully observed Tang Xiu, and then said, "I don't have a problem with lending you a hand. I naturally can help you as long as it is something within my capability. However, you have to answer a question before I help you, though. Please, do tell." Tang Xiu nodded. "You just asked a question that I was unable to answer," Yang Jinpan said with a smile, "because I really can't find any powerful company groups in the recent years who can become a dark horse, let alone in the coming few years, hence I want to hear it from you. Which one do you think it will be?" "The magnificent Tang Corporation," Tang Xiu calmly said. Staring blankly in response, Yang Jinpan hesitantly said, "This group's name sounds familiar. I think I've heard it from somewhere, yet I can't remember it. Can you tell me about the magnificent Tang Corp?" "I don't think you need to ask me." Tang Xiu chuckled and said, "You just need to send someone to investigate it and it will be clear to you." Furrowing his brows yet again, Yang Jinpan thought for a while. He then took out his mobile phone and dialed a cell number. After his phone was connected, he said, "Help me investigate the magnificent Tang Corp's situation. I want to know the result within 3 minutes." "Yes." After ending the call, Yang Jinpan directly sat on a chair nearby, and then said with a smile, "Little brother, let's wait for 3 minutes. It shouldn't be a problem, right?" Tang Xiu nodded and then also sat. The lobby manager and the middle-aged man nearby were at a loss whether they had to laugh or cry, a strange expression on their faces when they looked at Tang Xiu. They were speechless. It was because Tang Xiu was looking for Ho Qingmin, the Glory Auction House's general manager, whereby the person sitting beside him was actually the Glory Auction House's big boss, the immediate superior of Ho Qingmin. However, they could only sit at the long table, since their big boss himself already hinted for them not to say anything. Hence, feeling vexed inside, they busied themselves with their own affairs. Chapter 409, refuses a toast only to drink a forfeit. 2 minutes later, Yang Jinpan received the result of the investigation. There was little information, yet, a glint flashed in his eyes, and his expression slightly changed. "I see." After hanging up the phone, he looked at Tang Xiu with a strange expression. "Brother Tang, your analysis is very reasonable. The magnificent Tang Corp does indeed have great potential. The company definitely has the ability to become a dark horse in the business world in the next few years. I've been fortunate to taste their God's nectar once, because my friend hyped it up, and I was deeply impressed. The other two products of the Magnificent Tang Corp, the skincare lotion and the scar removal cream, are also standing out. Though it hasn't caused much sensation, they are being highly praised. Tang Xiu then rose and said, "Since I've answered your question, shouldn't you take me to see Ho Qingmin?" "What do you need Ho Qingmin for?" Yang Zhenpan also got up and asked curiously. "I want to ask him about something," Tang Xiu said. Seeing that Tang Xiu was unwilling to say more, Yang Zhenpan immediately nodded and said, "Then, come with me. I talked to him about half an hour ago. He should be in the general manager's office." "All right." Soon, Tang Xiu walked alongside Yang Zhenpan to the Glory Auction House's general manager office. Yang Zhenpan then knocked on the door, and then pushed it open. "You came, boss." In the office, Ho Qingmin smiled as he stood from his office chair to greet him. However, when he saw Tang Xiu behind Yang Zhenpan, he looked slightly startled. "Boss, this one is?" Tang Xiu's brows raised and then looked at Yang Zhenpan, who smiled and kept silent. It was only then that he realized that Yang Zhenpan was the Glory Auction House's big boss. However, he wasn't interested in who the Glory Auction House's big boss was, since he came here only to inquire about the buried diamond. "You're Ho Qingmin, Chief Ho?" "I'm Tang Xiu, the owner of the Magnificent Tang Corporation." Tang Xiu stretched out his hand and calmly said. "Hello, Mr. Tang." Ho Qingmin looked surprised. He knew a bit about the Magnificent Tang Corporation. He was a wine lover, and he loved Magnificent Tang Corp's God's Nectar. Unfortunately, he could only obtain 2 bottles of God's Nectar despite having spent a lot of effort. At the side, Yang Zhenpan also looked surprised. He observed Tang Xiu again and his shock increased. He thought it was funny and interesting for Tang Xiu to be unable to guess that he was the big boss of the Glory Auction House, hence the acting. Yet, he was unable to find out that Tang Xiu was the Magnificent Tang Corp's big boss as well. "Chief Ho, I don't like to talk in a roundabout way since I'm always straightforward," Tang Xiu said. "I'll talk straight to the point. The reason I come looking for you is that I want to find out about the buried diamond. Can you tell me whether the buried diamond belongs to your auction house or belongs to the consignor?" This, Ho Qingmin hesitated as he looked at Yang Zhenpan. Yang Zhenpan was silent for a moment, as he then said with a smile, "Brother Tang, since you came to our Glory Auction House, you're our guest. Let us not hurry and have tea first. How about we speak about it slowly?" "All right." Tang Xiu nodded. After sitting on the sofa, Ho Qingmin personally made tea, pouring it for Yang Zhenpan and Tang Xiu. Then, he sat on the empty sofa nearby. Yang Zhenpan took a short teacup and gently took a sip. He then slowly said, "Mr. Tang, according to the rules of our Glory Auction House, we can't disclose the source of the items auctioned at our auction house. However, since Boss Tang has come in person, I would answer the question myself. The buried diamond doesn't belong to our Glory Auction House. A distinguished client entrusted it us to auction it on his behalf." "Who is he? I need his contact information," Tang Xiu asked. "I apologize. We can't disclose the client's information." Yang Zhenpan shook his head. "I must know," Tang Xiu said with all seriousness. "Mr. Tang, I gave you a bit of information out of respect for you as the owner of the Magnificent Tang Corporation." Yang Zhenpan squinted his eyes as he looked at Tang Xiu and said, "But I hope you don't make things difficult for us, since our auction house has its own rules and customs. The buried diamond is too important for me. I must know who the owner is." Tang Xiu coolly said, "In order to trace it, I'll use whatever means necessary. I give you half an hour. If within this time you can give me the answer I need, then I owe you a favor." But if you don't give me a satisfactory answer, I can't guarantee what I will do to your glory auction house. How arrogant. Ho Changmin abruptly stood and looked angry, whereas Yang Zhenpan looked dignified, squinting his eyes as he continues sizing up Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu slanted his eyelids, sensing the looming momentum sent off by Ho Changmin. He then said in a cold and detached tone, "Manager Ho, I advise to put away your ignorance. Relying on your ability that wasn't enough to break through the first layer of Thousand Revolutions array, not only standing out will result in you getting oppressed, you will also make a fool of yourself." Ho Changmin's complexion changed, and said in a heavy voice, "You know the Everlasting Feast Hall's Thousand Revolutions array? You." Ring, ring, ring. Tang Xiu's mobile phone rang. The ringtone also interrupted Ho Changmin's words. Shooting him a glance, Tang Xiu then took out his mobile and pressed the answer button. After hearing Qi Nan's voice, he then said lightly, "I'm at the general manager's office, 28th floor." Having said that, he hung up directly. For a while, the atmosphere inside the general manager's office turned heavy. Knock, knock. The door was knocked, and then Qi Nan entered with a faint smile on her face. Under the surprised gazes of Yang Zhenpan and Ho Changmin, she came before Tang Xiu and respectfully called out, "Boss." Pointing at Ho Changmin, Tang Xiu then indifferently said, "You said you have a bit friendship with him. Ask him about the buried diamond." Buried diamond? A surprised look appeared on Qi Nan's face. In fact, she also saw the buried diamonds trailer from TV commercials. She also knew that the Glory Auction House would auction this precious diamond on October 1st. Looking at Tang Xiu and Qi Nan in disbelief, Ho Changmin hastily asked, "Chief Qi, what did you just call him?" "Boss?" Qi Nan could sense that something was amiss from the atmosphere inside the office. She then nodded, "Yes, he's the Everlasting Feast Hall's boss, Chief Ho. Although I don't know why my boss wants to know about the buried diamond, I hope you can truthfully tell him about it." Ho Changmin's lips twitched a few times, as he gulped his words back. At this moment, he finally looked a bit scared. He knew perfectly well how terrible Tang Xiu's threat was. He was a martial artist and had even personally visited the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ in Jingmen Island, trying to break through the Thousand Revolutions array. Naturally, he knew that the Everlasting Feast Hall boasted a lot of highly skilled experts. Suddenly, Yang Zhenpan let out a faint smile and said, "I never thought that Boss Tang was such a promising young man. Not only are you the magnificent Tang Corp's big boss, you're also the Everlasting Feast Hall's owner. However, you want to threaten me relying on your identity? I don't think that's enough, no?" The moment he finished speaking, Ho Changmin's heart jolted, and his heartbeat accelerated. He hastily winked at Yang Zhenpan. However, the man ignored him, as his eyes straightly stared at Tang Xiu. "Are you really sure you don't want to tell me?" Tang Xiu calmly asked. "Yes, I don't want to." Yang Zhenpan sneered. Tang Xiu got up, looked at Qi Nan and said, "Call Xiaoxue and tell her to send some people over. I want the Glory Auction House to cease existing before tomorrow morning. Also, take note that he's called Yang Zhenpan. Investigate him, including any forces that are related to him. I want he and his family, as well as those with good relations with his friends and family, captured. Remember, do it at all costs. Investigate the buried diamond issues secretly. Furthermore, since the Glory Auction House has shown us such a due respect, we must pay it back in face. Secretly investigate all the distinguished guests who have received the Glory Auction House's invitation, as well as what they want to buy. Our Everlasting Feast Hall will give them better compensation, and I don't want to see anyone to take part in this auction of the Glory Auction House." Affirmative. A glint of murderous intention shot out from Qi Nan's eyes. "Wait." Ho Changmin was greatly anxious, and hurriedly yelled, "Mr. Tang, please do not be anxious. The reason as to why my boss doesn't want to tell you is because the consignor of the buried diamond has a strong background, We can't afford to offend him. How about you wait for me to make a phone call first? If the seller is willing to see you, we'll help you. Ho Ching-min. Yang Jinpan abruptly rose, anger on his face. As though didn't see his fury, Ho Ching-min kept talking to Tang Xiu. Mr. Tang, your purpose is very clear. You just want to get the information about the buried diamond's owner. Our Glory auction house isn't willing to offend our friends, so please wait a bit. How about it? Coldly looking at Yang Jinpan, Tang Xiu then slowly sat down on the sofa and nodded, I'll be waiting for your news. Quickly nodding in response, Ho Ching-min deftly grabbed Yang Jinpan's arm and pulled him out of the office. Outside, Yang Jinpan forcefully broke himself free from Ho Ching-min's hold and shouted, Ching-min, what do you mean by this? I won't let this go if you don't give me a clear explanation here and now. Taking a deep breath, Ho Ching-min then said with a solemn expression, Boss, I do respect you as a boss. That was why I stopped you just now. If you were to clash with Tang Xiu, then I can only resign. Because I fear him more than I fear you. A newly developed magnificent Tang Corp, and just a restaurant's boss, yet you're more afraid of him than you're of me? What a joke. I, Yang Jinpan, have a lot of wealth and personal connections. My Yang family is an illustrious family in Beijing. Even if we are not among the top 3, we are big enough to be in the first 10. I really don't believe he has that much ability, to begin with. Boss, the Everlasting Feast Hall is a very special existence. Ho Ching-min slowly said, as far as I know, they have tons of highly skilled experts. Of course, I wouldn't fear them if it was just this alone. I have a hunch that there are special people in the Everlasting Feast Hall. Special people? Yang Jinpan frowned and asked in a deep voice, what special people? Looking at both sides and finding that there was no one nearby, only then did Ho Ching-min reply in an undertone voice, Dao cultivators. Chapter 410, Visit. Though having his own pride, Yang Jinpan always stayed low profile. He mostly had humble disposition, however, aloftness existed in his bones. Today, he came across Tang Xiu by chance, and his few statements got him interested. Because of this, it increased his interest toward Tang Xiu. However, never did he expect that such a young man who seemed to have such a good temperament would unexpectedly be the big boss of 2 companies, the magnificent Tang Corp and the Everlasting Feast Hall. What was the most unbelievable thing for him was that the young man even dared to threaten him. He was angry. He wanted to teach this young man a lesson, so that the youth would know what modesty meant. Yet, after he heard this statement from Ho Ching-min, his heat tightened and a chill quickly formed in his heart. Hailing from a big family in Beijing, he had been in contact with some things that ordinary people wouldn't believe. Thus, he naturally heard about cultivators' existence through various channels. The number of cultivators was very small. It was a simply rare of existence in his view. Yet, any of these people had mysterious abilities and were shrouded in mystery. Regardless of whether it's true or not, I'd rather believe it than not. Prudent and cautious as he was, Yang Jinpan made a snap decision. Looking at Yang Jinpan's changed expression, Ho Ching-min's heart tightened. For fear that Yang Jinpan had turned a deaf ear, he then said in undertone voice after hesitating for a while, Boss, your decision is. If the Everlasting Feast Hall really has that kind of people, can we even provoke them? Yang Jinpan smiled and said, not to mention that Tang Xiu himself displayed such unusual stance, too unusual. With unusual matters, there certainly exists a demon as well. Hence, we'll contact the buried diamond's seller first. If he agrees, then throw this hot potato to him. If he doesn't, then, if worst comes to worst, we can only give up and help him with the buried diamond's auction. Then, shall I contact the other party? Ho Ching-min murmured. I'll contact him myself. Yang Jinpan slowly said after staying silent for a while. All right. Ho Ching-min gently nodded, feeling relieved inwardly. On the outskirts of Shanghai, there was an ordinary house located in a fruit orchard with a clear rivulet in front of its courtyard. The stream gurgled rapidly as fishes occasionally jumped out of the water surface, splashing water and creating ripples. An old man wearing a sun hat and white jersey held a fishing rod as he quietly fished. By his foot was a big yellow dog, lazily lying there and yawning from time to time. "Grandpa, there's a call for you." A delicate, cute little girl ran energetically from the courtyard behind him. She was only 6 or 7 years old, carrying a black-colored mobile phone that was flashing some lights. "Who's calling?" The old man didn't turn his head as he asked. "I only know the Yang word on it, Grandpa." The little girl laughed and said, "I don't know the last 2 words. Do you want me to check up on the dictionary?" The old man finally turned his back. After receiving the phone, he glanced at the name displayed on the screen, and then said with a smile, "Then go and look them up in the dictionary. Grandpa will answer the call first." "Okay." The little girl replied, turning around and running back to the courtyard. The old man then pressed the answer button and coolly said, "Why are you calling me?" "Elderly Wei, our Glory auction house has just come across a big trouble because of your buried diamond." Yang Zhenpan respectfully said. "Tell me." Wei Jiangping squinted his eyes and said, "Someone wants to find the buried diamond seller through our Glory auction house." Yang Zhenpan said, "According to our auction house's rules, we keep our clients' information confidential, especially you, who is the owner of the buried diamond. However, the other party has a very big background and is someone our Glory auction house is unable to provoke." He said that he must find the specific information about the buried diamond seller even if he must destroy the Glory auction house and my Yang family. "Who is the other party?" He really said it with such a big tone. Wei Jiangping's brows raised and asked curiously. "I know that he has 2 identities. One of which is the magnificent Tang Group's big boss, and the other is the Everlasting Feast Hall's owner." Yang Zhenpan forced a smile and said, "However, I also suspect that he has other identities as well. He's way too young, after all, and looks like he's in his 20s. Wei Jiangping shook his head, because he had never heard of these 2 names. He had been abroad for nearly 5 years, and most of his time had been spent in this place after coming back. For him not to know of these 2 enterprises was normal. "Let him come if he wants to see me." "All right." Hanging up the phone, Wei Jiangping then intended to put the mobile phone away, but he seemed to recall something. After thinking for a while, he then dialed a cell number and laughed, "Old buddy, how about coming here and have some tea with me?" "What happened?" An old voice came from the mobile phone. "Well, I came across an interesting matter." Wei Jiangping said with a smile, "I want you to come and see the fun. Besides, the 4 others geezers are in seclusion, to begin with. I have no one who can chat with me but you. I'm kind of lonely here." "Okay. I'll be there by lunch. Just prepare some fresh fish for me." "No prob." Shanghai, Glory Auction House. After hanging up the phone, only then Yang Zhenpan heaved a sigh of relief inwardly. He put his mobile phone away and looked at Ho Qingmin, who looked at him with anticipation, and then slowly said, "Investigate this Tang Xiu, place the focus on the Everlasting Feast Hall." With a slightly changed expression, Ho Qingmin forced a bitter smile and said, "We can't, boss." "Why?" Yang Zhenpan frowned. "Actually, I sent some people to investigate the Everlasting Feast Hall many years ago. They never came back. Neither had there any news about them. It was like a pebble dropped into a bottomless ocean." Ho Qingping murmured, "All in all, I sent 3 groups. I even asked someone from a private investigator agency later on, yet the result was exactly the same. Afterward, someone came to me and put a knife on my neck, telling me to never investigate the Everlasting Feast Hall again." "Who was it?" Yang Zhenpan's complexion changed and asked in a heavy tone. "Outside the Everlasting Feast Hall's people, who else could it be?" Ho Qingmin forced a bitter smile. Yang Jinpan's face changed yet again. He then nodded and said, I see. You don't need to handle this issue anymore. Let's go see that Tang Xiu again and send him off. Did the old man give his consent, boss? Ho Qingmin hastily asked. Yes, he agreed. Yang Jinpan gave a short reply. After returning to General Manager's office, he saw Tang Xiu smoking on the sofa. He then sat on the sofa at the opposite side and said, Mr. Tang, I just contacted the buried diamonds owner myself. He agreed to see you. Give me his contact information. Tang Xiu said. Can you give me your cell number? Yang Jinpan said, I'll send you the old man's address through a text message. All right. Tang Xiu told him his cell number. After calmly waiting for about a minute, he then received a specific address. Then, he got up, looked at Yang Jinpan, and lightly said, Originally, I should have owed you a favor, but your attitude made me dissatisfied, hence it's voided. Thus, we don't owe each other. Having said that, he quickly left the office along with Qi Nan. After they left the Glory Auction House's entrance, he said, Come with me. I just came back from Jingmen Island, so I don't have a car. Understood. Qi Nan smiled and replied respectfully. An hour later. In Shanghai's suburbs, a fruity fragrance fluttered in the orchard. Riding a mountain bike, Han Jintong appeared outside the house's courtyard. Beside him was a beautiful girl dressed in a fashionable dress, pink sunglasses, and also rode a mountain bike. The duo looked at Wei Jiangbing, who was quietly fishing by the small stream outside the courtyard. The girl then called out, Grandpa Wei, I came with Grandpa. Slowly putting down his fishing rod, Wei Jiangbing then got up, turned his head and said with a smile, Qinggu, you also came. It's been 5 years since I came back to the country. This should probably be the second time I'm seeing you. Grandpa Wei, an elderly such as you has a pure mind. You live like a hermit in this kind of place every day to enjoy your late years. I don't dare to rashly disturb you. Wei Jiangbing grinned. He then turned to Han Jintong and said with a smile, Old buddy, the glib tongue of your granddaughter is better than yours. Anyhow, let's go. The dishes and wine should have been prepared, let's have a chat while eating. Didn't you call me to see a show or something? Han Jintong said. The protagonist has yet to arrive, but they should be here soon, though. Wei Jiangbing said with a smile, All right. Let's have a meal first, then we'll talk about that after dining. The delicious dishes included fish and meat. Living in this place together with Wei Jiangbing was his daughter-in-law and granddaughter. The person who cooked was the housemaid hired by his daughter-in-law. In the dining room. As they sat down, a car's horn was heard outside the courtyard. Wei Jiangbing shot a look at his daughter-in-law and lightly said, Go outside and bring them in. Since they came at dinner time, prepare more tableware as well. All right. 2 minutes later, Tang Xiu and Qi Nan were brought to the dining room. His expression blanked slightly after seeing the people inside, because he never dreamt that he would unexpectedly meet an acquaintance in the dining table. More so because the person was someone he didn't want to see the most. Tang Xiu? Why are you here? Han Qinggu was surprised as she got up and asked in disbelief. How have you been, Teacher Han? Tang Xiu said lightly. Looking at Qi Nan behind him, Han Qinggu then asked once again, Tang Xiu, you haven't answered my question. Why are you here at Grandpa Wei's place? Surely I have things to do, no? Tang Xiu said. Nodding to his daughter-in-law, Wei Jiangbing then said, Take 2 pairs of tableware and chopsticks. Only a pair, please. Qi Nan stepped back and indifferently said. Wei Jiangbing furrowed his brows slightly, whereas Han Jintong had an odd expression on his face. Since you came with Tang Xiu, eat together with us. Han Qinggu said with a smile, the meals in Grandpa Wei's home are very delicious. No need. Qinan stepped back again, refusing and shaking her head. Han Qinggu shot Qinan a look, and then shifted to Tang Xiu. All of a sudden, she was clueless about their relationship. Just as she was about to say something, her heart suddenly jolted, and shouted, "I remember you. You're the Everlasting Feast Hall's manager. No wonder I thought you looked a bit familiar."